All right, let's talk about the Golden Knights responding to adversity. What's going on there? I think the latest just coming down. Is it true that Robin Lehner is out for the season now?
That is correct. Yeah. The Vegas Golden Knights announcing minutes ago, Tim, that Robin Lehner will undergo surgery. And sources tell me that this surgery is actually a shoulder surgery, not anything to do with his knee. We reported back on February 15th that Lehner had torn the labrum in his shoulder and would eventually need surgery. I had said at the time that it was dependent on whether or not he'd try and battle through and finish the season. Obviously, he did that. And nothing but full marks and respect for Robin Lehner with what he battled through over these last number of weeks for the Vegas Golden Knights to get back and playing after the knee injury, after the shoulder injury, and to do it all, Tim, without taking any painkillers as well, because he's been steadfast in his journey along the way. I mean, can't really say enough good things about Robin Lehner.
You're saying that. Is the feeling the same in Vegas? Because there were some whispers that maybe there was some animosity there. Is that true from what you're hearing?
Animosity in what sense? Like, I didn't get there was the sense between any animosity between Lehner and his team. No. No,
you didn't feel like there. I had heard whispers in the past that maybe that they thought that he was a little premature on when he was going to play and when he was not going to play, and the calls that were being made. No such thing.
No, I think any friction that existed there really came from that pull in the first period a few weeks ago, right, when he was yanked in favor of Logan Thompson. I think going into the game, Pete DeBoer, just reading the tea leaves, really wanted to start Thompson. I don't know if he ended up being overruled in that sense, but you know, this is a shoulder injury that he's having surgery for. Think back to that goal that he gave up in the first period. It seemed to me to be a puck that he was reaching for that he just couldn't find or just couldn't grab. And you think of the limitation now, and it all kind of makes sense. He ends up getting yanked. I can understand why, if there was any animosity, he was upset. You know, it seems pretty rare to have a team pull their goalie tied 1-1 at the end of the first period.
Right. This doesn't seem like it would go over well with Bill Foley if they miss the postseason. How will this go down in Vegas?
That's really what's going to be interesting. I'm wondering how deep the changes go. I would think that given the friction that's existed there between not just Robin Lehner and Pete DeBoer, but also seemingly, if what I mentioned is true about Pete DeBoer and Kelly McCrimmon, it would seem like Pete DeBoer would be on his way out. Now, the bigger question is, will Kelly McCrimmon follow him? What kind of changes does Bill Foley make to the hierarchy of this organization? You know, you think George McPhee, their president of hockey ops, has seemingly been in lockstep with Kelly McCrimmon over the last number of years, paving the way, in fact, for McCrimmon to take over as general manager. Does it reach higher than that? I think that's the big question mark. I was there the night this team was named. I was there throughout their Stanley Cup run to the final in their inaugural season. And you heard Bill Foley talk repeatedly about the honor of the Golden Knight and, you know, never backs down, never retreats. And that's been admirable in the way that this team has chased their Stanley Cup. But it feels like there's been a little bit of a toxic culture shift over these last number of years as they've chased each new shiny toy that's come onto the market. So when you look at all of that and the players that have been jettisoned, the decisions that have been made, the lack of prospects, the lack of cap space, they're in a pretty tough spot to end up not making the playoffs this year. And I wonder what the damage to this team's reputation, not just in the market, but also around the league with other players, has had a lasting impact. Will it spur Bill Foley to change?
Yeah, that's an interesting part, is like Jack Eichel obviously being the latest new shiny toy, and what you have to move in order to bring those shiny toys in. Those are also humans, and players wonder, if I go there, will I be the next one that will be moved on when and if nothing happens? The Eichel one, listen, I know folks in Buffalo aren't all that worried that he missed the postseason, but should we feel bad for Jack Eichel? Like, this is a colossal run now for him.
Well, I mean, part of it is, I would imagine, a little bit on him. You think back to that game against the Sharks last night. How many opportunities did he have in overtime? How many, he had another opportunity, another crack at it in the shootout. I wonder about the fit on that team. And I also, really what made me scratch my head a little bit more with Jack Eichel, and this isn't to demean him. I give him full marks for the courage that he had to go through with his artificial disc replacement, how he paved the way for, other players to follow, with Tyler Johnson, for instance. But when you look at the Buffalo Sabres and this season and the way that it unfolded, not only did they get some valuable pieces back in Tuck and Krebs to add to their team, but I wonder if in some ways was there any addition by subtraction? And I think you have to ask the question based on the fact that last year, Tim, the Buffalo Sabres were on track for a 54-point regular season, and that was with Jack Eichel over an 82-game stretch. And now you look at this year, and their over-under was set at 66.5. We were just talking about some lines before to kick off our hit. 66.5 or 67. They've blown that out of the water with still a few games to go, and yet their supposed best player is not there anymore. And they were missing some of these guys from the trade for a large stretch of this season. So I think it's fair to ask the question. And I really wonder what the dynamic in that room is like with just a couple guys left from that original team and a lot of different mercenaries that have been brought in along the way.
Yeah, I asked the same question after the return trip and the trash talking that was coming out of Jack Eichel's mouth after the game towards the Buffalo fans who kind of gave it to him. Since that point, Frank, the Golden Knights are 10-9-2. The Sabres are 13-6-3. Before I let you go, there are 8 teams in the East that have 100 points or more. What the hell does that mean?
Nothing. I mean, that's the truth, because you look at the way they've beaten up on teams. You look at the gap between 8th place and the playoffs. It's really sizable. The Islanders are 20 points back. Some of these other teams, 30 points back. It doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It just means that 8 teams have clearly separated themselves, and also the way that the NHL hands out points just continues to be a little bit weird.
Yeah, I think they hand out a few more points than they used. I wondered if it meant that perhaps Florida should be nervous as your President's Trophy winner, or at least your have seed in the East.
I mean, it's the NHL. If you're the #1 seed, if you're not nervous, you're not doing it right.
Right. Without a doubt. All right, Frankie. So have you got any hate mail as of yet? Can you check your mentions from the Tim and Friends on the 20-point Raptors loss or win?
I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about what's coming next from Golden Knights fans.
Yeah, that's going to come your way, too. Frankie, always appreciate you doing this with me. Thanks for the time.